Our guest today on my 3 Keys of Success, part of the For the Love of Chiropractic series, is a man who I've watched grow up in the chiropractic profession. When he and I first met, he was a young guy just figuring it all out. Now he owns 15 clinics all across the southeastern part of the United States and is absolutely lighting the world on fire. His energy is contagious. His information, it flows like water out of a fire hydrant. And I'm super excited to share with you this interview with this super successful doc. Hello and welcome to Secrets of My Success, part of For the Love of Chiropractic podcast series. On each episode, I'll be interviewing one highly successful doctor or business person, asking them what are their 3 keys of success or secrets they've used to make themselves so highly successful. So let's get started with today's show. I have the pleasure of having on the phone today a longtime friend of mine, Dr. Austin Cohen, who practices in the area of Atlanta, down in the southeast part of the United States. Austin, are you there?
I am here, Doc. What's up? Good to see you, man. Good to talk to you. This is such a great reconnection, by the way. So thanks for having me.
I know it's been a bunch of times since you and I have caught up, and I absolutely love what I see that you're doing online and what I hear from other docs that I talk to. You are absolutely on top of the world, and I am so proud to have known you for so many years. But before we go too far, because I really want everybody to know who you are and where you come from. So, how many years have you been in practice?
I graduated from chiropractic school in 2009. So this marks my 16th year in chiropractic practice.
That's awesome. 16 years. Fantastic. And tell me about your path. How did you find your way into chiropractic, and then what did you do when you graduated?
Yeah, so when I went to college up in Richmond, Virginia, not far from you, I thought I was going to be a dentist. And what I did was I was dating this girl who was from Northern Virginia at the time. So I decided that the best move for me was to go to VCU for dental school. Being an out-of-state person, it's almost impossible to get in, by the way. They take very little people from out of state. Out of 200 applicants, it was about 5. My GPA did not reflect that. A couple too many years doing the fraternity life really ruined me for the GPA department, but it helped me with the social aspect, which really matters now. But I ended up not getting into dental school. My mom had me move back to Charleston, South Carolina, which is where I'm from. And she said, why don't you go visit a chiropractor? And honestly, Robert, I did not even know what that was. Contractor, chiropractor, I didn't understand this language back then, what that meant. So I go to this guy's office, and man, it felt like I walked into heaven, like when I walked in this place. And what I mean by that is like traditional medicine, you walk in, there's like a window that like blocks you from the front desk person, right? There's a barrier. There was no barrier from me and the office person. And when I walked into that office, by the way, they had a chalkboard up that said, by the way, this is in 2005, okay? So there's a chalkboard up, and it said, welcome, Austin. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they know my name. This is so cool. The doc's like, hey, Austin, come back here. Why don't you hang out with us? And I'm hanging out in the back, and he's high-fiving his patients. He's got these athletes coming. He's taking care of the Stingrays, which is a hockey organization at the time. So I knew after that moment that was in April of 2005. That day, I applied to chiropractic school, and then I started in October of 2005. It was the greatest thing ever in my life. So thank you, Mom.
Wow. So that personal touch really, obviously touched you and turned your whole life around.
Yeah, because it's lacking, right? I was a dental school. I was a pre-dental major. So everything I did, my externships, my internships while in college were built around hanging out in dental clinics, hanging around the dental school in Richmond, Virginia. And there was lack of customer experience, customer service. None of that existed. And it was just very redundant, lifestyle. So to go from that, thinking I was going to reapply to go to the MUSC, which is South Carolina's dental school, which is easier to get into because I was either be in-state for me, walked into this clinic in April 2005 and realized, oh my gosh, this is exactly, and every one of us have had these moments where it's just like everything connects. Yep. And for me, that was that moment where I was hitting all senses, all emotions. Everything just felt right. So yeah, that was a decisive moment for me.
All right, that is so cool. Now, as our listeners heard in the introduction, I mentioned that you currently have 15 clinics. How did you go from graduating chiropractic school to working 2 days a week, seeing patients and helping to run 15 clinics? What does that look like?
It goes from A to B, not A to Z.
You're going to have to break that down.
It went from 1 to 2, and then 2 to 3, and then 3 to 4. And so what happened was, you'll appreciate this. When I first graduated chiropractic school, you and I have been part of the same organizations before, and in there, my coach would always say to me, hey, what are some of your goals? What are like long-term goals? So you'll appreciate this, Rob. My long-term goal was, I want 300 patients paying $150 a month for once a week care. That was in 2009, okay? So that would put me at $45,000 a month, $540,000 a year. I'd have one office manager, and I was like, this would be great. I'll be making like, $250,000, $300,000 a year. So easy, okay? That was like my original plan, because everyone always says to me, they say, was your original vision to have more than one location? Absolutely not. It was one location, 45K, 150, 300. That was literally my vision for a long time. And I had this built out, by the way, when I was in chiropractic school. And you knew how crazy I was too when I was younger. I worked 24 hours a day. It was nonstop. So that was always the vision. And then what happened was in 2014, I am somebody who's willing to take risks, by the way. And I can justify them based on short term. So for example, in 2014, the gym owner, the CrossFit gym I went to, was about 20 minutes away from my Buckhead office, my main office. And he says to me, hey, Austin, we have about 300 square feet. It's going to be about $1,000 a month if you want to lease space from us. So I said, okay, let me find a chiropractor. I said, what is my contract with this? He's like, dude, it's just month to month. All right. So if I hire a chiropractor, let's just say a base of 60 to start. This is back in 14, by the way.
Sure.
That's $5,000 a month plus my $1,000 a month of rent. So that's $6,000 a month. So the way I broke it down was, am I willing to risk $18,000, which is 3 months? I do everything in 90-day cycles, by the way, Rob. So that's like when I take risks, everything is in 90 days. So I said, am I willing to risk $18,000 to potentially have a lot more? And of course, and the answer was yes.
Sure.
And that was Clinic 2, which was Corrective Chiropractic, Sandy Springs. And then it just took off, man. First month, we did over $20,000 the first month in revenue, huge profit margin. And, the year after, a young kid comes up to me who graduated Sherman and says, hey, I'd love to work with you guys. I like what you're doing. I love the model. I love the culture. Would love to open a Corrective Chiropractic. So then we opened up in Decatur, which is another 20 minutes. So I built this triangle in my area, and it kept organically growing that way. Now, what it's turned into is we actually acquire clinics now. So we'll find chiropractors that are ready to retire, or docs that are moving, or docs that are having a tough time in practice. And what we'll do is we'll help them out by taking over their practice for them.
That's really, really cool. So I love what you said about taking risks and 90-day cycles. I mean, there's a gem there that I think everybody needs to know and understand. You can't stay stuck in your stuff. You have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone, even if it's a tiptoe, or in your case, the whole foot. Take that 90-day risk. Okay, here's where we're going. Because the only thing you're risking is some time and some money.
Yeah. And I think for some people, though, it's also, if you go back even another layer to that, by the way, then you're saying they need to get uncomfortable. A lot of people don't know what that means. Okay. So what I mean by that is, I personally love to challenge myself and get uncomfortable. I've done multiple Ironman. I've run a 100-mile race. I've done Navy SEAL training with Navy SEALs for 24 hours where it was a 30% completion rate. Swam Alcatraz. And I'm not saying those things to brag. I'm saying those things because they were really difficult. And at some point during those experiences, I knew I was going to want to quit. And I knew it was going to be very uncomfortable. And so what do you do in that situation when it gets really uncomfortable? You say, fuck it, I've come far. And we all tell ourselves the same story, by the way, right? Like, I get up super early in the morning. I tell myself the same stories as everybody else. I should get sleep. I should recover. I need the rest. My body needs a day off. Same stories, right? And so, but what do you do in that situation when you're like at mile 60 of a 100-mile run and your legs are burning up, your feet are cramping, your feet are bleeding, you're dehydrated like crazy? It's like, what do you do? And for me, it's always going to be obviously pushing through. I don't quit. I never quit. But putting myself in those situations has helped me get to that point of knowing what uncomfortable feels like, if that makes sense, right? So a lot of people just don't know. So I always recommend people do endurance races. Like, do something where you think you're going to quit. Jump into a pool that's 32 degrees. See how long you can stay in there for. Like, and then add a minute. right? Like do things that suck and are really difficult, but are also going to push you to that next level.
All right. So now, from a business standpoint, I get it. You've made it incredibly clear. You have decided to do things. It's a decision. It's a yes or no. It's a yes or no. It's black or white. Do it or don't do it. And the answer is let's do it.
Just do it, man. Yeah.
Right.
And you, we all talk about this all the time, right? Done is better than perfect. Progress is better than perfection. Like, it's just some people get in their own way. And Larry Markson always used to tell me, he'd always say, Austin, the reason you're stuck in practice right now is because you're in your damn way. And then he'd walk away. Yeah. So I didn't even get to ask him what that meant. But that always stuck with me, especially the cabin experience, which I think you and I did together, by the way.
We did.
And it always stuck with me. And I always had to process that because when I was young, early on, and a lot of people get into this trap. You get comfortable. You think you're doing great in practice because you can afford most things in life. But you got to get out of your own. I mean, it's like about being unstuck and understanding what it's like to get uncomfortable. For me, personal experiences do translate into the professional life too as well.
So let's take this to the next level because I know where we're going because you and I have chatted a little bit before we started recording. So okay, 1 clinic to 2 to up to 15 now. Awesome. So is there a goal for the number of clinics?
There's not actually. There's not a goal for number of clinics. There's a goal for revenue and profit. Okay.
So revenue and profit. We'll come back to that. So in the process of building and running these clinics, you mentioned to me that you ran into a software issue. Talk about that, please.
Yeah. So as we were growing and scaling, we're using different Google Sheets. We're using Google Docs. And I'm sure for those of you that are out there that are like 1 clinic owners, you can actually relate to this of thinking, yeah, I've got Google Sheets all over the place. We're using this software, that software. It becomes confusing. But also not only does it become confusing for when you're trying to scale your business and actually create really good processes around it, but what also happens is it becomes expensive. So if I'm paying $200 a month for one software, for a clinic, that's $200 at 15 clinics. Now that's $3,000 a month. Multiply that by 12. That's $36,000 a year for one software. So between my EHR right now and our two-way communication software we use, I'm actually over $100,000 because those are both over $200. So what happened was about 5 years ago, we decided, once again, it comes back to risk, right? I'm thinking in my brain, we're spending, now, by the way, that was just 2 softwares I just shared with you that we're spending over $100,000 on between our EHR and two-way communication. But then we had exercise program prescription software. Then we had a DocuSign thing that we were doing for patients to fill out their paperwork before they come in. Then we had another software that we ran our, what we call our level 10 meetings at. So we were running all these different softwares. So what we decided to do is just build it in-house. So over the last 5 years, we've built the software. Many of you guys know about the software. It's called Chiro 180. It's an operating system for your practice. And that has been transformational for our business to run this, right? So it does, for example, people can now like build customized care plans in there. So now my docs were using, they would have Google Docs up when they do their care plans. And sometimes they would just use the same one. There wasn't any, they weren't able to see like how much that cost. They weren't able to customize it. The whole thing is like now just more technology is built in and it's so much more efficient. They can also see dashboard. This is crazy. They can now see a dashboard of their black holes. You know what a black hole number is, Rob? I mean, you may call it something different, but do you know what I'm talking about when I say black hole?
Explain it for everybody's benefit.
Yeah. Let me share with everybody else. So what it is hopefully everybody has what's called a new patient manager, right? Where you track all your new patients, where they came from, the doctor who did the report of findings, the primary concern. Did they show for their first appointment? Did they not show? Did they come in for the report of findings? Did they not come in? Did they close into care? Did they not close into care? And if they re-signed, when did they re-sign? How many visits? If they dropped off, what visit number was it as well? Okay. Yep. So this is like part of Chiro 180, by the way, as well. And it gives dashboards. But the black hole number is such an important number. And what it is, let's say you go through all your 2024 and you look at all the patients on your new patient manager that quit care. You then put what visit number they dropped off at, and you take the average of that. And that is the average drop-off number where people are dropping off. It's not your PVA number, right? PVA is total visits over new patients. It's completely different.
Yes.
This is the black hole number, which is maybe that number is like, for most chiropractors, by the way, it's lower than they think it is. It's usually, I find around 8 to 12. A lot of their patients will make it to the re-exam. if they don't do re-exams, they actually don't make it to the re-exam. They make it to usually visit 8 or 9 because, obviously they feel like it's redundant. The doctor's not doing anything different. Even though they probably are, they're just not communicating well to the patient. They don't understand the future care as well in that office. So anyways, we find that number. So that number, for example, is in there. So it's really a business. And that's why I say it's an operating system, because you can get a pulse as the CEO of your clinic. You can get a pulse on your practice to understand and make really good business decisions, which, by the way, I give an entire playbook for people on that. But that's kind of what we've done with the software in our company, by the way, for better systems, better processes, more scalability. That's why we built that for us. Yeah. And now we lease it out to other chiropractors. We let other chiropractors use it.
I love that. Yeah, what you call the black hole, on a previous episode, we had talked about a whole drop visit analysis. Where's the bump in the speed bump in practice where your biggest chunk of people are dropping out, and then why, and then coach, and then we talk around that in that episode. Why are they falling out there? And how do you paint the picture forward so that people keep getting great chiropractic care?
Dude, there's so many people, so many chiropractors I talk to who have our software, and man, they don't realize. They always think it's further out than it is. And then I ask them, I say, well, when do people drop off of a care? And they go, well, no one ever drops off. And I'm like, wait a minute. Nobody ever leaves your office, ever. Right. They're like, well, some people move, but everyone finishes their care plans. And I'm thinking, I cannot wait till you implement the software and actually get a big pulse on your practice and understand this. This is going to be a great game changer. Yeah. It now becomes not subjective, it becomes objective, which is great.
Right. I love asking docs the question, so do you believe in maintenance care for patients? Well, yes, of course, absolutely. Okay, so what's your PVA? And that's a whole nother conversation. And then you get people completed their care plan. Well, that's like saying you're finished with a dentist. I have finished all of my exercising forever.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, not happening.
Okay, but I want to jump back in. So we've talked about the clinics, we've talked about the software, and again, you clearly have this don't quit attitude that I love, and it revolves around profit and revenue, as you mentioned before. You have a unique skill that I wish I could somehow just diffuse and give to everybody who's listening to this, because you're a problem solver. So within your clinic system, you obviously you saw the software that you were using wasn't working right, so you built one. That's really cool. Give me another example of something you've done with your clinic system that you saw wasn't working for the chiropractic profession. So like Steve Jobs, you just reinvented it and made it better.
Yeah, I'll give you another example. So for us, one thing that was happening was when you have as many clinics, for those that start to scale and expand, one of the issues becomes marketing. What you don't want is a business that depends on your doctors having to do screenings and events, right? It's tough to scale that. And because then it depends on the doctor who's in there, of course, to be really good at marketing and selling and doing events. And then it takes the time away from their family on the weekends. It's not what I want, okay? So we started reaching out to all these different digital marketing companies, and every single one I reached out to would say, oh, we got you 30 leads. And I say, but nobody came into our office. And we followed up and we did the process you tell us to do. And we called them and we emailed them. Nobody came in. They say, yeah, but we got you 30 leads. That's amazing. No, it's not amazing. We care about bodies on tables. Exactly. Actually is what matters. So we went through, this is crazy. We went through 15 different companies because we tried different ones in different locations to see what would work best. Because we thought maybe it was the zip code. Maybe it was the demographic. We don't know. We were trying all these different ones. So then I said, all right, we're done with this. I reached out to a patient of ours who's been under care for 6 years, and I said, hey, Roger, here's the problem in our profession right now. A lot of our chiropractors in this profession are selling based on price. So they're racing to the bottom. They're selling these $27 new patient exams. That's not our model. We're more affluent demographic. We sell big care plans, all cash. We need a different model. We want to sell on brand and value. He's like, oh, that's easy. So he and I and he understands chiropractic, by the way. He's been under care for 6 years. His daughter comes in who's 2 years old. So he gets it. Mm-hmm. And so he and I work together to build this company called L5 Marketing, which works with chiropractors to help them with their Google ads. And the ROI is massive. My office in Chambly, so our admin fee on that is $1,000 a month. We usually have our clients spend about $1,000 a month on ads. So it's only $2,000 a month. So for that. And Our Chambly office last month had 4x. Our Woodstock office had almost 5x. They were almost at 9K. It was, the ROI is massive. But what's happening is it's not about the quantity. It's actually really about the quality is what we're finding. Of course. Right? So like they may get 4 new patients that came from the Google ads we ran. All good. At a 75% close rate, because sometimes Google ads are maybe a little bit lower, but at a 75% close rate, 3 care plans that sell, our average case value is about $4,000 to $5,000. So, yeah. And so it works. And so these people are committing to care, by the way. And we can track these reports. Once again, now I can track all these reports in Chiro 180. And because both these things synergistically work with each other, I can look at clinics and see with the software now, I can look and see everything like on our dashboards in Chiro 180. I can see how much money they're spending on Google ads. So if I see it drops below a certain percent, we'll ramp it up. Or if those clinics I just shared that are doing 4 to 5x right now, what we'll do is now we'll increase the ad spend, go above our traditional. So we do about 10% on advertising and marketing of our revenue. So if a clinic's doing $100,000 a month in revenue, we spend $10,000 a month on advertising and marketing budget. But for some of these, we're going to go to 15% this in Q1 because we've decided that we're hitting such good results that we're just going to max it out now. So, there's 2 things in there where I just shared. One was the solving the problem of the L5 marketing, but the other thing was the analysis. And you tied to that earlier. And the reason why, Robert, I think I'm good at it. And maybe I don't know if I'm good at it, but I think what my talent is differentiating time between in the business and on the business. I spend a lot of time on the business, by the way.
All right. I've got 3 more questions for you because our time is running short.
Yeah. We'll have to do a part 2 of this one day.
You know what? I would love to have you back on. So here's my question.
Yeah.
With what you see in the chiropractic profession, a lot of our listeners are new kids right out of school. Is it still possible in today's world for a kid to get out of school, a young doctor, with the student debt and become wildly successful?
Yes or no answer? Yes, 100% without a doubt.
Absolutely. Thank you. Because you know what, the young docs just need to hear that. And we don't reinvent the wheel. Find people that have the answers and become highly successful quickly because business is expensive.
Extremely expensive. But by the way, do I think that they should all own their own business? Absolutely not. I think most chiropractors that own their own business should not, actually. I think there's too many that do, where they could work in organizations, whether it's like mine or you and I are good friends with Corey, and they could actually make a lot more money at those places with less stress.
Sure. It depends on what you want your life to look like, which brings me to my last 2 questions. Can you define for me, what does Dr. Austin Cohen say the definition of business success is?
2 things. One is my business will thrive when I'm not there. 2, my team will live on the same street as me.
Ooh, I've never heard that in all the docs that I've spoken to for this podcast. That's really, really cool. I love that. Yeah. My final question, how would you define personal success?
I'm very clear on this answer. Being present with the people and things that matter the most. My 2 biggest core values in my life are relationships and experiences. That is, at the end of the day, that's all my life ties down to, by the way, is those 2 things. That is it. And I sacrificed those things for the first 6 to 7 years of my business career to get to this point. But I didn't realize how lacking that was early on in my career. And I wish I did those things. And one of the suggestions I would give to any chiropractors listening who feels burnt out, go back to doing the things you did when you were a kid. Go back to the hobbies you enjoyed as a child. And when I did that, that completely transformed my life personally. Fishing, being outdoors, hunting with friends. I took so much time off. I didn't have a fishing pole in my hand for like 10 years because all I felt like I needed to do was work. But when I got back to doing those things and getting connected again with like feeling like a kid again and doing things I enjoyed, but also doing with the people that really I value a lot. Friends, but also family. I do one-on-one trips with my kids every year. I do date nights with my wife. I do trips with my wife. So I'm very involved, by the way, as a parent. And that to me is the 2 most important things right there. Relationships and experiences, being present with the people that matter the most.
Man, Austin, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this interview today. You're just an absolute rock star, and as I said to you before, I'm just so proud of having known you for all these years and watched and seen the success that you have cultivated and made happen.
I appreciate that. And by the way, that means a lot coming from you because I still do look up to you, and I always have. Even when we get seminars and conferences, I mean, you're just somebody who I really enjoy. I mean, your energy, by the way, just gets people excited, and I always felt really good when you were in the room. So thanks for being there for me and being a mentor to me.
Absolutely. My pleasure, and we will talk soon, and I would love to have you back on the show.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, Austin.
Take care, Robert.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. And that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.